and I just told her, let's just remove the uterus. So she's like, अभी क्या काम है? बच्चे तो हो गए, अभी उसका uterus का क्या काम है? You know, like we can just remove it, right?
I'm really just trying to think कि मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ता है अगर मुझे गायने की जरूरत है, मैं आपके पास आऊंगी,
No,
आप
see,
मुझे हेल्प करोगे. अभी मुझसे पहले और मेरे बाद आपने कौन से वाले जेंडर को
नहीं बहुत फर्क पड़ता है.
So where is a trans person supposed to go?
That's the problem, no? That's why we have to fight for it. Unfortunately, STDs such as hepatitis and HIV have no cure. Sex education does not mean teaching your kids how to have sex. It's all that what you said. It's about gender, it's about sexuality, it's about identity, it's about knowing your body.
Yeah, it's not okay to have multiple partners. But medically, what's the issue? Hi, this podcast is with Dr. Yuvrajsingh Jadeja. He's a fertility expert and gynecologist, an awesome human being, and a very trusted and loved doctor all across the country. So why did you decide to be a gynec? Why this stream? You could have been any other doctor.
Yeah, I think I just knew. It's a very, I don't have a very interesting answer, but I think very, very early on in my med school, I just knew. I went to my first gynecology or a first few gynecology lectures, and I just knew that this is something that I want. And it was very strong. That intuition was not like a faint-hearted intuition. It was a very strong intuition. And I think in that moment, I knew I was going to become this. In fact, I tried to fight that instinct. That, like, why become a gynecology? Because those days, again, the stereotypes were I was a male becoming a gynecologist. Plus, gynecology was not a very lucrative branch. It still isn't. Most people feel it isn't. So, because it's emergency, you know, there are a lot of, it's a lot of sweat. It's not like a very posh branch where you just sit and, you know, a lot of hard work. A lot of people say messy work. You know,
Bloody
so
messy.
in fact, my family, my friends, my near and dear relatives, all of them used to say, like, you know, like, you're a ranker and you have everything, you're getting an opportunity to become a brain surgeon, kyun nahi ban jate? Or my mom also used to be like, I wanted to become a heart surgeon, and it sounded very fancy. And I'm talking about 2004, 5, 6 around.
Yeah.
So, but I could never, I convinced myself a lot, but I always kept coming back to gynecology. So I think I just knew.
That subject, that area interested you.
It was just
instant
calling me, yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's believable, but it's also like, I mean, how doctors would strategically.
Yeah. I wanted to be strategic, but I couldn't. In fact, I lost a year because, so us time pe these many seats were not there. Like when I say seats as in, there were very few seats for MD Gynac in the state. These national exams were not there.
Okay.
So it was very limited. So I remember I was ranked, that year I was 6th in the line, and we had only one seat for gynecology, and that got taken away by someone before me. And then I wasted a whole year because I said I just can't do anything else.
What did you do in that year?
I worked. I again prepared for my exams, competitive exams. And my parents and everyone was like, are you mad? Like, who gives away an opportunity? Like, you're getting everything else. You know, like,
choose
something else and don't waste a year of your life. But I said, I don't think I'll be able to do it.
My God, like that strong.
Yeah, it was a very strong calling or intuition.
But it was, I mean, up until now, I guess it's a very women, lady doctor dominated field, gynecology.
In a way, yes.
I said comparatively.
Yes.
Yeah, proportionately, there would be like a higher percentage of women doctors who there. So did that, like, I mean, your initial patients, now of course you have credibility, right?
Correct.
But initially, like, did you feel that women were hesitant to come to you or the families? Yeah, as a doctor.
Yes. I think it always will be initially. When you don't have that name, that credibility, you are a young doctor, why would someone from an opposite gender, I mean, not why would, but I'm sure they would feel shy. I think wo thoda reservation hoga.
Yeah.
You're right, because even in my batch of, like, we post-graduation, the seats are less. So we were the trainee gynacs, we were only 4, but I was the only male person. And in fact, in my whole department also, I think there were only 2 male. We had only 1 male professor, and against like 10 women professor. And their sisters and their patients. I mean, even in the gynac ward, there are no male nurses. You know, they're all medical help. All of them are women. Initially, yes, I think. But you know, there's been a rule, which is a legal rule, that if you're examining a woman, you can never do it alone if you're from an opposite gender. So when there's always another woman in the room, it usually makes it a little less uncomfortable for the lady. So it's a great rule. And at the same time, I think I was always more aware. So, you know, you like, if I'm initially when I'm examining a patient and I know that, you know, I'm a guy and she's of a different gender, you talk to them more, you try to make them feel more comfortable, you try to make them feel more at ease. So I think that always goes a long way. And I think that subconsciously wo thoda aa hi jata hai, that, you know, you are aware that you don't want to startle them, you want to make sure they don't feel violated in some way. So if you're aware and conscious about it. Yeah, but abhi to obviously, I think if someone is entering my clinic, especially in a private setup, they know who they are going to. So I'm sure they don't have that. But yes, you are going to face that part. It's like, it's the same, like, you know, what women talk about being in a men's stable. You know, sometimes exactly. You just feel. No, that's what I was wondering, that it's like one section would anyways, like, ye to gynaeco, but like otherwise also, if there's an examination, you know, women, based on, and it's the same, like, even if I would, like, a guy would have been asked to do a private genital checkup by a girl, I think he would also feel a little hesitant. But now I think people are really very, very aware, and ab nahi hota. Nice. And when the husbands or the male partners are accompanying, are they like more comfortable because it's you in front and they can have their own conversations with you, or they feel more intimidated that you're going to examine their wife? No, I think they are more comfortable because you know, there are certain things that they would have not discussed with a female gynecologist, which they easily discuss with men. And I think it's also the opposite. I've realized in the past few years that usually, unfortunately, in our society, the women has always been a little more oppressed, even when it comes to health. So, you know that there is this hint of the in-laws, the husband blaming the lady for the situation that they are in, whether she's unwell, whether she is not conceiving, they feel all problems are hers. So I think I can very emphatically tell that guy that, you know, okay, like, calm down. This is not right. I think just last week I had a patient in Ahmedabad OPD. Very common scenario. A obese woman comes in and she has PCO and she's having trouble with all other things. So you obviously have to ask her to work on her weight and lose weight, and the man just jumps in. You know that kuch nahi hone wala. It's been years. We have kept on telling she will never improve. She doesn't want to do anything and all. And then, you know, at that point, I feel this gender helps me tell him that, you know, just calm down. It's not that easy as you think. And your job is not to criticize her, but to support her. Only a person who goes through that weight loss journey knows how difficult it is. It's not you want her to take care of your house, you want her to take care of your tiffin in the morning, you want her to take care of your in-laws, you want her to take care of your house and relatives, clean the house, plus go to the gym, do yoga, plus diet, not eat what you want to eat, and plus cook things for you. Like, chill out. Like, and then I usually ask them, like, what are you doing to help her? And then they actually don't have an answer. I said, why don't you go to her with the gym? You know, like, you're asking her to go for 45 minutes. Why don't you accompany her? Yeah, you know? Absolutely. So yeah, that way it matters. I was wondering that what would be your, you know, discussions be like. I think like a man to man. Like that would be. We can shut them down when they are leaning towards offensiveness, too much of patriarchy, and blaming the girl. Because otherwise, if it's a lady doctor, then the man feels that, oh, now it's just these two of them. And maybe I have never thought so much the angle that you're talking about, but I think it's valid. How in your world is
what do you perceive gender as, both physiologically and culturally? What does gender mean to you?
See, I think very honestly, being someone who prides himself as being an inclusive doctor, and I've worked towards inclusivity in medical field a lot. For me, gender definition is not binary at all. Because and it's not just about books. A lot of people feel कि अच्छा ये एक social media fad है या ये western culture है कि ये सब नया नया आ रहा है. But I have to seen all this in our country. I've treated these people who you think are not fit to be in any gender, be it someone who calls themselves non-binary, or someone who labels themselves as trans person or gay or whatever, male, female, whether you're talking sexuality, gender, whatever. So I have walked the talk. So we've given babies to trans couples. We've frozen gametes of men who are 1 year later going to transform themselves, have their surgeries, and convert themselves into whatever they want to be respectfully.
Wow.
So we've seen all that. So for me to sit here and not believe in different kinds of gender and put it in a very black and white term would be really hypocritical. It is a spectrum, and I really believe it's a spectrum. And I think gender is where you fit yourself in the spectrum. That's how I believe.
Beautiful. So would you say that this spectrum gets divided more by a mental conditioning or our physical comfort?
I think it is all to do with the way you've been brought up and the social arrangement of it all. Because if today the whole of India decides that we are not going to teach our children that there are two genders in the world, 10 years later, the generation would not believe that there are two genders in the world.
Yeah.
So it is social conditioning more. It is the way you think more. But luckily, after years of oppression, these people have come out, fought for their rights.
No, that acceptance is like anything changes, and that's where we take generations to.
Yeah. But I'm seeing, very small, but I'm seeing some amazing change in the society, because I think we tend to catch that end of the rope very early on as medical professionals. Like I have couples right now where the husband has come out as a trans person and the wife is supporting. Like it's really heartwarming to see.
Wow.
We've had parents come with young children and daughters and sons and struggle with their sexuality and gender, seek help, be quite supportive. I'm sure it's not everywhere, but this is much more than what I was seeing 10 years back.
It's getting better.
I have a very young chap, 21-year-old right now, coming to freeze his sebum because he's just, in the next few months, is going to start the hormonal therapy for a conversion, as in to transform into another gender.
Right.
So, and happily so.
Wow. So, in the growing up years, there are obviously a lot of questions that a young person could have, whether not just the gender, but the overall identity, right? And then, some things like black and white and obese and thin, skinny, and then you look like a boy, you look like a girl. Like there's so many things that that age group goes, all of us.
Correct.
All of us have been there. Where do you think gynacs can support, and at what time, phase, age should a parent bring a child to a gynac just like that? Like we take them to a dentist just for the routine checkup?
It's going to be a very much of a shared responsibility between gynacs, counselors, therapists, school counselors, psychiatrists, dermatologists, a lot of family physicians. Because unfortunately in India, what happens is doctors are very overburdened, whether it's private hospitals or government centers. Most of them are doing more than what physically one could do. Like, so in that case, sometimes counseling becomes a big issue. But I've always been asked this question of how important is sex education, and how important is why is there so much of taboo around sex education in schools and all. I think this all starts with the school programs, and I've said this so many times that sex education does not mean teaching your kids how to have sex. It's all that what you said. It's about gender, it's about sexuality, it's about identity, it's about acceptability, good touch, bad touch, knowing your body. It's about respecting. It's so much more. So it includes everything. It includes addressing racism. It includes addressing sexism, ageism, everything. Being body positive. So these are all the aspects of sex education which we very easily deny. And unfortunately, even gynacs somewhere are also to blame for it. It is because I see a lot of gynecologists on social media, and people don't like it when I say this, but I see most of them get into sex education, which is great.
But that's just one part.
That's just one part, and that's even not a complete sex education. So when I see a sex educator, someone who's labeled themselves as a sex educator on social media, talk about gender, talk about sexuality, talk about body positivity, talk about rape, talk about good touch, bad touch, ageism, sexism, all these things, I immediately messaged them. I said, you might not have 1 million followers, but for me, you are a true educator, because there is a group of people who have been doing this, and that is also needed. Orgasms, talking about orgasms is needed, and talking about sexual positions is needed, and women's right in sex and all that is absolutely
all
needed.
Of it is fine.
But let's not forget, and let's not be so naive. We know that that is something that sells on social media. So it's very easy for gynacs to take that part for having more viewership. But at the same time, what I just would love to see is, if you're making 10 videos on that, make one a little different. Make
What
one
would
on
that be
this. Would be on teaching them what is a pronoun. What is a transgender person? What does we all talk about L and G, and then we don't know what B and T and A and plus stands for.
Right.
So talk about trans people, talk about trans health, talk about asexuality, talk about binary, talk about non-binary, talk about right touch, bad touch, talk about sexual health diseases, abortion rights, pregnancy, teenage pregnancies. So much more.
So much, absolutely. Because these are those situations when we encounter, then we don't know how to handle it.
Correct.
Even for a loved one.
Correct.
And you definitely being in the space, you don't see that enough is there as information.
No, because also it's difficult also. No? So I remember when we had to put on my social media profile, I always wanted to write inclusive doctor or something like that to just let people know that don't stop yourself from seeking medical help just because of a sexuality. And I'm a gynecologist. Like I know these things, and I'm open to treating all of you. I was scared. People were like, if you write this, the so-called heterosexual couples will not be comfortable, and they will think that your clinic is going to be filled with gay men and trans men and women. And
but so what?
See, that is a small section of the society, right? Like if I make a 15 crore hospital, I have to run it. You need numbers. So
like, are you saying that people, if you have gay couple here, lesbians here, the so-called heterosexuals will not come to the clinic, will feel awkward because there are people...
That's the perception.
Hey.
Of course.
Huh?
Of course. And it's true.
आप doctor हो तो आप तो support treat कर सकते हो.
Still, it is, and it is sad, but it is.
I'm really just trying to think कि मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ता है अगर मुझे गायने की जरूरत है, मैं आपके पास आऊंगी, आप मुझे हेल्प करोगे. अभी मुझसे पहले और मेरे बाद आपने कौन से वाले जेंडर को...
नहीं बहुत फर्क पड़ता है. See, there is an entire East and West Wing community in the world, right? And there is a very, very strong East Wing community which will not support people who support these topics and these parts of society.
वो topic अलग है, but doctor...
नहीं तो वो support कहाँ से आएगा? It's not just vocal support, no. it's business support, it's coming to you, getting treated by them, taking advice by them, buying a product from them. There have been so many you know, social media brands, or say there could be so many people who have been cancelled online, people have boycotted them. It could so easily happen. And I just said, you know, like there's so many times when a trans person used to sit in the clinic, you could very visibly, sadly but very visibly, see that there were a couple of people who would not be comfortable. Definitely, I mean, especially in small towns, yes.
No, I know what you're saying, but my only
Yeah,
because
you, if you ask me what is the logic, there isn't.
No, logic nahi bhi nahi. But I'm saying that okay, fine, you have your things, your thoughts, and in a public space, okay, you have something. Okay, maybe you have something, but at a doctor is supposed to heal. So anybody, like an Amir, Garib, Mota, Kala, Safed, anybody comes to a doctor. Similarly, this person needs a gynaec and is coming.
If only we lived in that utopian world. Which we don't. But I think abhi mujhe nahi farak padta. And I realized that it didn't actually matter in my clinic.
Yeah.
But I would be wrong to say that it would not matter to everyone. It could have a backlash.
So where is a trans person supposed to go?
That's the problem, no? That's why we have to fight for it. So they usually go to government hospitals. Now there are trans clinics available. So, but
that's just now, and so of course it's fewer.
That's why this community has suffered for so long, because they themselves were also not comfortable coming. The doctors also didn't know enough, and the acceptance level. So they used to harbor diseases for months and months because they just didn't know where to go.
There's no channel.
And if they went at a certain place, there was so much of discrimination. I just did a podcast with Yogi and Kabir. Not just, we did a couple of years back during COVID, who ran a podcast called Should They See Gay? It's a very famous podcast where they wanted to talk about sexual health and how LGBTQ community fertility issues were being addressed, and how could a gay couple have a child. And I was a guest on their show, and just recently I had a conversation with them where they were telling me that they went to a urologist in Delhi and how they faced so much of difficulty in, and could see how he was uncomfortable when they openly said that, you know, he's my partner. And so if you have a UTI, maybe the person was saying how many sexual partners you had, and Yogi or Kabir, or he was, or he said that, you know, I just have one partner and he's the one. And they were like, it was so evident that he was uncomfortable.
Awkward on that.
Yeah.
So on the multiple partners, I was wondering that we all culturally, we all say that it's not okay to have multiple partners, but medically, what's the issue?
Not at all. There's no issue at all. Like, just be safe. Right? I don't think there's any issue at all. But you have to be safe. Like, especially if we're talking about women, make sure you don't catch an STD. Make sure you use the right protection. Make sure you get yourself tested. Make sure you don't get pregnant. That's the only thing. There's absolutely no issue in having. But not being careful with multiple sexual partner comes with its disadvantages. You might catch an HPV infection. What I said, you might catch an unknown pregnancy, and then those could lead to a lot of risks in your health. But nowadays, there's a very, very, very strong trend. It's not 100% reliable, but these days I have a lot of couples come, like a lot of young men and women come for STD panels, regular sexual health checkups. And when you ask them whether you have multiple sexual partners, they're very open in saying yes. And they are also, I've realized recently in the last 1 year, a lot of them say that, you know, I never sleep with someone unless they don't show me their STD report. Like, I need a 3-month recent HIV, hepatitis, syphilis report, and I don't sleep with them until they send me on a WhatsApp, or I don't go and meet them if I'm intending to have physical relations with them, which is great. Wow. Of course, it's not 100%. That's becoming a very common thing now.
That's a very, very big one.
Yeah. So, like, if you meet someone on Tinder or you meet someone on a dating app and you're planning to meet someone, before you go and meet someone or before you exchange numbers or whatever, you're asked to share your STD report, the recent STD report. It's become a very common
thing. I'm feeling outdated. I'm
You
like,
need to get back on the horse.
I know. I'm like feeling outdated on the information. Like, which planet are you talking about? Where are I've got so many young people around, but it's like sounding utopic to me. It's like, मैं क्या कर रही हूँ? Oh God, I need to brush up and freshen up. Considering the times today, where I'm not saying that kids are being exposed to sexual activity in general.
No, you're right.
That's
you would
also
be surprised
happening.
if you're asking me what is the youngest age that someone should bring a daughter or a child to a
and without having
gynecologist, like a disease or a concern.
Yeah.
Actually, technically, it would be 9 years, because 9 is the lower limit when you can give your boy or a girl HPV vaccine. One of the most important vaccines that
You recommend that?
Of course.
Huh?
So 9 to 14, if you take an HPV vaccine, you need to only take 2 doses. It gives you almost like 99 to 100% protection against these HPV infection and cervical cancer. If you take it post 14, you need to take 3 doses. So 9 to 14, you can just take 2 doses. Also remember, 9, 10 is the time when the girl is going to get her first periods. She's going to have breast development. She's going to get these so-called puberty symptoms, and that sometimes is a very, very difficult time for girls. And in Indian society, it is absolutely like no one talks about it, even in the family. Yeah. So it's a great time to bring in.
But what's the logic of like 2 doses between 9 to 14? Like what happens inside the body that it's just 2 is good enough?
It's just that once you become sexually active, you've already been infected, or you could have already been infected. So you take it. Protection. Yeah, so you need more protection.
And like with vaccines, I always have this doubt of which vaccines are like more marketed and
so
put out
HPV
there.
HPV usually doesn't have that problem, honestly speaking, because there are only 2 available. There was only one available, which was Gardasil, which is it's available all throughout the world. And now the Indian version, Serum Institute has brought in Selfawareness. So it's not like you have to choose from 10 different vaccines. Also remember, just technically speaking, HPV vaccine protects you against cervical cancer, it protects you against oral cancer, it protects you against a lot of rectal cancer, anal cancer. So it's vaginal cancer, vulval cancer. So it's not just cervical cancer. It's like a lot of things.
And it protects. If you've had the vaccine,
very high,
like you're saying, 99%.
Very high sensitivity.
And so this whole bearing the child, is of course, as a culture, we've been very loud and proud about it. While there are other countries and cultures where it's at a different degree. Now we are also in India, we're seeing, I don't want a child culture, or at least I would just want to have one child, right? What does bearing a child actually do for a woman? More than emotion, but is it a medical, physiological, physical? Does it have an impact that if you bear a child, it helps?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes.
So a woman or a person who's not ever gotten pregnant or delivered a baby, or who has never breastfeed, are higher risks of breast complication, uterine fibroids, uterine cancer per se, later on in their life, against a person who's carried a pregnancy, delivered a pregnancy, and breastfed a child. That's a science, and it's almost 15 to 20% less, which is a huge number in medical statistics. So unfortunately, yes. But practically speaking, I've explained this to a lot of women, that doesn't mean that you need to if you don't want to. See, there's so many genetic tests that tell you that you might have a breast cancer. Doesn't mean you will always have a breast cancer. Right. So if you've chosen not to bear a child, if you've chosen to be child free, absolutely fine. Just take a little extra care of yourself. Get those yearly 6-monthly checkups, mammograms, pap smears done, and you should be fine.
Now, empathy amongst doctors. I always feel that, the doctors who are empathetic, of course, it feels nice, you're more comfortable. But do you think that empathy of a doctor actually has any effect on the quality of healing? Or it's more of an emotional thing?
quality of healing for the
Patient.
Yes, it does.
I mean, you are very empathetic, clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly,
Yeah,
right?
it does. It has its own advantages, disadvantages. But if you're talking from a point of view of a patient, it definitely does. I would always want an empathetic doctor against a cold doctor who might be the best in the world. I would always want someone to.
But दवाई तो वो same ही देगा.
नहीं, there's a lot of difference. See, let's go back to the conversation of where we are talking about a different gender, like a male examining a woman. He might be great, but if he's not going to treat you with respect, it's just not going to be a point, right? Medicine is so much more than just medicine. You know, it's that's why you said healing. If you'd have said treatment, then I would have said no. But if you say healing, so much more. There's so much of psychological stress pre-procedures, post-procedures. You talk about birth. You know, like you might deliver the most genius person in the world, but if you have not been treated well during your labor, that is the most pathetic and traumatic experience that a woman can undergo. Imagine a doctor who is delivering you are in crazy pain during labor and your hormones are all over the place, and that doctor is shouting on you, abusing you, not being empathetic towards you. Your delivery might be the smoothest and you might not have a complication, but I have seen women, who would have been traumatized by that experience, right? So definitely in our field, though, no question at all. But I think it always helps. Does it help the doctor? That's a debate.
That's the subjective part. Because even in Gynae, like this whole thing between a normal delivery to a cesarean, it's, I mean, not diplomatically saying, but it's like really, there's a whole set of people who later on say that, or know that they're being pushed for a cesarean.
Correct.
It could have just been normal.
Correct.
You know, it's
correct.
So that's where the entire
So again,
politics
that's
comes
where empathy also comes into picture, no? Because if you're not empathetic, I don't think that the level of trust would be there.
Yeah.
So I think it's no question. If you are not an empathetic doctor, I don't think you're a good doctor. You can sit on the chair and say that, okay, I detach myself from my patients and I don't carry my patients home. I would never go to that doctor. We all carry patients home. Like, it's impossible to not carry. I mean, if there is a world, I would want to see it, but I don't think that happens majority of the times.
So when the doctors say that it's an everyday thing for us, we can't be...
So to a level.
Yeah.
Like if you come with fever, I'm not going to cry like my mother is crying. You know, like tomorrow I have fever, my mother is worried 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to cry. But if someone loses a patient, if someone sees someone in very bad distress, yes, of course, if someone is going to tell that, your 16-year-old is having leukemia, someone is going to say that your 45-year-old mother who was absolutely fine has come for a regular checkup and I'm seeing that she's suffering from cervical cancer. Yes, it does affect, It's the emotions, it's the energy in the room. I've had couples who've tried for pregnancies for 20 years and not succeeded and broken down like badly in my clinic. And it would be totally inhumane, and I don't know, we would have what steel should you have been made of to not get affected. Like I have had people who like literally fallen on the floor on the knees saying that I can't take this anymore and I think I will not live any longer, like that level of distress. So it's impossible to not
can't detach from that.
And not only me, I think many of us have seen this.
But doctor's job is all stress.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, like for one person that we're caring for, that just, that's a personal thing, but it's so much. And we leave it on to you guys to say, please bacha lo. Please sab kuch theek kar lo. And you have that. I could have
like imagine very, very simple examples, but someone, for me, we do infertility, we do IVF. So I have this couple who's 41-year-old trying for again 15-20 years, never succeeded, finally conceives, all happy, comes for a checkup one day and they have miscarried. So it's impossible.
Oh my God. What all happens?
But you have to, of course, keep yourself stable. There have been so many times where you know, that couple has left, and I've asked my assistant doctors and my OPD assistant that, you know, just like wait for 2 minutes now. Or now they also realize, you know, they're like, you sit, sir, like take a couple of minutes, you know, it happens. Yeah.
Process that. No, I
मतलब मैंने मन्नतें मांगी है, imagine, like it's that level, like I mean, I don't know how it's going to work, but at the end of the day, sometimes when things are not in your hand, like I'm a spiritual person, and you go to that extent, you know, like, and I realize that मैंने अपने लिए आज तक, like in the last 20 years, I don't think मैंने मन्नत मांगी है, but like I would just say that, you know, like just get this done and I'll do this and I'm going to come to this mandir, या you know, मैं वैष्णो देवी आऊंगा या इनको भेजूंगा, या you know, like that level.
Like surrender and
yeah,
take
and
help
I'm
of...
not I mean, I'm
Wow.
not shy from saying that. I don't know whether that helps or not, but like it's okay.
No.
Like at the spur of the moment, I've done that. Like I'm like, oh God, like please get this done for them, of course, and I'll do this, you know, like.
Amazing.
Like I remember very initial years, interestingly. I mean, we all learn, and I was also very naive and innocent. I was just in the field of infertility, and I had this couple from Africa who had done their IVF and then gone back. And I know their struggle, and I know how they had gathered all the money to do it and come to India for the treatment and everything. And so because it's Africa, you get up in the morning here, but you know, they are whatever, 6-7 hours behind. So once there would be a morning there, then they would give a blood test and they would test to know whether she was pregnant or not. So मुझे यहाँ पे पता चलने, I think it would have been 7 o'clock in the evening here. Only by then I would have known because of the time difference. So me and my assistant, you know, we decided that we're going to fast today. Like, we really want this couple to get pregnant. Let's just fast today. And we are like, we're not going to drink water. We're not going to eat anything till we get the result of this patient. So we've done all this, you know, like this is like 10 years back, probably 7-8 years back. Yeah.
What about mind-body connection? So, you know, to do with reproduction, you know, it's a phenomena. Who knows it better than you?
Correct.
That there is no medicine that you can give to anybody to get through the process.
Correct.
Right? It's such a natural phenomena. And our mind is, of course, dealing with a lot of stuff.
Correct.
Right? So what goes on in the mind, does it really have an impact on reproduction?
Absolutely. Everything. See, scientifically, you know, your brain is the epicenter of everything.
Yeah.
I have had girls who have gone into a very stressful job or a very abusive and stressful marriage, and their periods have stopped. And I have the same girl who have left the job, that stressful job or that stressful career, and their periods have become normal. The same girl who was in an abusive marriage, who was having this pressure of infertility, was not bleeding and was having all sorts of trouble under the roof of irregular periods, cramps, pains, everything, and not getting periods for months, got divorced, came to me again, pregnant with a second husband few years later, and she was absolutely fine naturally. So yes, a huge connection. And unfortunately, it is the most difficult part to manage stress, and it's most difficult to keep it at bay.
Yeah.
But yes, your mental status, the way your mental health is, decides everything in your body. Your periods, your reproduction, your hormones, your thyroid levels, your weakness, your muscle strength, everything. It does.
It does. And the stress in terms of, let's say, the pollution, you know, food we eat, you know, the air that we breathe, does it affect a woman differently than a man?
It affects both.
Sure.
Of course, it would affect differently because the systems are different. Women tend to be more sensitive to these changes because you see, there is a lot of outlet presentation in women. I don't know the word, how to use it. The consequences of sensitivity is very visible in women. Like, if men had periods, they would have been equally affected by everything. You know, it's very simple. It's a very simple math. Like, anything happens in a woman's life that is out of natural and too stressful, 50% of them would have a change in their periods.
Yeah.
It's that sensitive. So, unfortunately, pregnancy is being carried by women. Unfortunately, they bleed and menstruate every month. They ovulate. Unfortunately, their ovaries don't produce new eggs. They're just recruiting eggs from their birth. So these make them very sensitive, and that's why they see more effects, like PCOS, like thyroids, like reproductive issues, infertility issues, period issues, endometriosis. Men don't. But then men have their own different set of issues. These days men have erectile dysfunctions, they have mental health issues, heart issues, cholesterol issues. But what you said is like the biggest concern and crisis today in the world, which is the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat. It is so much adulterated. People every time they keep on asking, infertility is on the rise. Why is it on the rise? And it has a direct connection with all of it. And it's only going to be on the rise because how are you going to change the air, and how are you going to change the water that you're drinking and the food that you're eating, which is out of packaged and processed. And there's so many times we ask women to stop milk, and they are just the elders are just not able to digest the fact that how can you stop milk? But the problem is milk is one of the most adulterated and the commonest household food item that is available in the market today. And so a lot of food.
What's wrong with milk?
So that's what a lot of food influencers have gone and clickbait saying that, oh, there's nothing wrong with milk and milk. But milk is, so it's considered because cattle breeding is so common because of population and business industries. We all know that cows are being injected growth hormones to produce more milk, to produce more mass in their body, so that there's more milk also. And when you kind of slaughter them, there's more meat also. So, but these injections are bringing out substances in milk which are disrupting your hormone system. Again, you have Tetra packs and you have packaged milks and milks that are lasting for months and months, which is not fresh. So it's everything. It's your beauty products, your shampoos, your plastics, like we used to laugh that, how moms are so finicky and so possessive about their Tupperwares, and the Tupperwares are ideally supposed to be just thrown, it's a plastic. You could be so possessive about your glass jar, but not about a Tupperware,
Yeah. But just Tupperware lasts longer.
Yeah, but it's plastic.
Yes, plastic. So mom's way of looking at it.
Yeah, so it's what I'm trying to say, that it's about everything. So that the problem is about the dish you're eating, the straw you're using, the plastic cup you're carrying your coffee in, from the air you're breathing to the water you're drinking. So where do you go?
Kare kya? Oh God. Like how much yoga or how much meditation?
Just a few days back, you must have seen that Brian guy, the anti-aging person who got up from Nikhil Kamat's podcast, and then so much was talked about air quality. It was not that we didn't know about it, like we all knew about it. It's just because someone from the West got up from a meeting and left from a billionaire's podcast, it's become a news. But
and we are saying we are dying because of that, and it's not
and
heading
recently,
anywhere.
I just read an India Today report where they had listed the top 10 polluted cities in the world, and all 10 cities were from India.
So just to round up, when we're on the understanding our own bodies, there is this whole myth around periods. There is a lot of myth around periods, and periods becomes a very, very important part of this. But is sex safe during periods?
Sex is safe all the time if it's safe sex. You're using your protection. There's only two reasons why you need to use protection. One, to not get pregnant, and one, so that you don't catch an infection. If you're doing this, sex is safe during day, night, twilight, during your periods, without your periods, at any age. It's meant to be.
It's meant to be. It's human.
Yeah.
And I mean, this I have seen because I've worked on one of the largest mass media HIV/AIDS campaign of the BBC, where condom was the sin word, right? To actually get into a place where it became a little more comfortable. Men going and getting it off the counter, and women going and getting it. When you say safety, to the younger people who are listening to you, and they have this discomfort of how can I, even the woman is very hesitant to ask the man for it, that
True.
you can, it's a it takes a while
Correct.
for people to get comfortable with that.
Correct.
What would you say? Coach somebody like that, because safety is the main thing.
I think just get over it. You have to understand that there is nothing more important in the world than your health. Unfortunately, STDs such as hepatitis and HIV have no cure. I mean, you can say that today we have treatments for it, and there's great treatment for it, and it is controllable, and it is not bad as it is. But why would you want to take a pill every day in your life?
Yeah.
Right. Second, I think women needs to be very, very much pushed and empowered enough to understand and verbally say the word no. Remember, I've been asked this question once, and I said that, understand that if this guy has sat in his car or a bike, traveled a few kilometers, all prepared in his head to be with you, he is not going to go away just because you're going to say no or ask him to put on a condom. And
fair point.
9 out of 10 would not go, because at the end of the day, he's so amped enough that he wants to get it done.
Yeah.
He's horny enough to be with you.
Yeah.
Maybe one might leave, which is fair game.
It's actually better.
Correct.
Better that he leaves that case.
So most of them are scared that, okay, वो कभी-कभी उनको लगता है कि, oh, I got this great guy and he's a hot guy and I've got an opportunity to sleep with the person, and what if I will brush his male ego and all. Believe me, when it comes to sex, men don't have that big an ego. They're just looking for sex. And I think what is more important is this: you protect yourself.
Yeah.
One very important thing that I'll bring it up here is that these days there is a big, I said, a kind of a scam where, have you heard of something known as PrEP? So
PrEP.
PrEP. So PrEP is a medical terminology which is known as pre-exposure prophylaxis.
Okay.
So there are these tablets that people take, which reduces drastically your risk of catching an HIV infection and kind of gives you a safer space to do unprotected intercourse.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear these. So whenever someone, like in the last recent times, there's so many patients who've come who have been diagnosed with HIV, and I said, why didn't you use the protection? And they said, doc, I was on PrEP. The opposite person was on PrEP. It's a very common thing among young children today.
Oh.
Not young, everyone. And in the West, it is even more. In India, PrEP is a little less because you have to pay for it, of course. So, but understand, is there any way of knowing that that person is actually taking that pill or not? Has he missed the last 5 days or 7 days of his pill? Is he even lying about it? So if my only takeaway for everyone from this conversation would be, if anyone tells you I'm on PrEP, still insist on using condom as a protection. Like,
don't go for any other
and we option. Know men can lie. Like, we all know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For a good time, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we talk about seniors. So like in Indian culture, around menopause, the sexual activity stops.
Correct.
Right? And then as a culture, we've seen where people don't even sleep in the same room.
Correct.
Like, it just, I don't know what happens, but
Correct.
it goes on with them.
Correct.
Do you work with senior patients?
Less, but we do have menopausal patients who come.
Yeah. So is that what happens? So the woman is definitely going through.
So unfortunately, most of them don't come for sexual issue.
They don't.
Even if they come for other menopausal issues such as dryness, period issues, or health issues, breast issues. We've had very, very few women who've come that, I'm 50 and I'm not able to be sexually active and healthy, and please do something about it. They do, but very few and rare. But yes, because also you understand that physiologically also your body, if you've not taken care of your body, whether it's men or women, the sex hormones are kind of depleting in menopause. So your inclination towards, intimacy is going to reduce. Your need of sex is going to reduce. And sometimes that is something what we call a sexual gap. That means one of the partners might have more need than the other partner. And then that's something you need to work. Women usually have more problems. Men also have problems that fortunately, they have a pill just to treat most of their erection problems. But for women, it's not that simple, because vaginal dryness can be sometimes really creating havoc to their bodies. But now we've got really, really great treatments for vaginal dryness, menopausal health, and everything.
So it's all that. What are these, let's say 10 or 5 or 2 questions that you're always asked, but what are those questions that you rather prefer that patients ask you?
I think the first question, especially as a gynecologist and as fertility specialist, I would love if people start asking is, when are you getting my man tested? Because most of the time, unfortunately, the women are just coming alone for their checkups, because it's just assumed that the problem is going to be in them, and they ask, "Sab mere mein sab theek hai," as you said. But I would love if they ask that, "Kya mere husband mein bhi sab theek hai?" Like that is one important question. Second question, I think you had, I didn't think of it, but it comes to my head is when you said that, I have a daughter, and, what should I look forward to, and what are the things that I should take care of in my daughter at this particular age. Third is, most of the time people reach a gynecologist's office once they are pregnant. But the right time to go is once you start trying for pregnancy, because you can kind of eliminate almost 50% of issues of pregnancy if you have caught them early on. So there are thalassemia testing to be done, thyroid to be seen, your sugars to be seen, your hemoglobin, simple thing as a hemoglobin to be seen.
Big one.
Before knowing that actually whether you're even ready for pregnancy or not, or your the other one is, I would love for women to know and learn a little bit about their ultrasound report. Most of the time when women go to a gynecologist, the gynecologist does the ultrasound and you get a report and they put it in the file and it's done. But it would be great if you could go just a step forward and talk to your doctor about, is my uterus okay? What's the status of my ovary? What's the fertility status that I'm going to have? It would be great if women started asking, that, what is my fertile range? As in, if someone comes at 29, she thinks that, okay, she's okay at 29, but then she might decide to get pregnant at 35, never go to a gynecologist, and then have to face infertility issues. But if at 29, she would have asked the doctor that, how can I know that I'm fertile enough and how long can I stay? They would give you some steps and numbers to take care, so that
that's possible to
yes, of course you would need routine checkups. At a one point checkup it's not going to give you a report, but you would know what, and then you would also know the signs of the danger signs that you need to take care of. And if in case, sometimes we've had 21, 20-year-old 22-year-old girls who've now almost approached menopause at 22 because of other diseases. I have an 18-year-old girl who's in menopause because their ovaries have shot, multiple reasons. So now this girl, if not told at the right time, would have not frozen her eggs and would have never had the ability to have a genetic child. I would love for couples and everyone to understand difference between sex, sexuality, gender, different identities. I think tomorrow your kid, your brother, your sister might come with some form of identity, gender revelation, and if you know, you would do better. Pregnancy time, a lot of women, they end up only asking, am I okay, am I okay, am I okay? I think most gynecs would do, but it's always important to keep asking your doctor that, okay, what are this month, before I come to my next checkup, what are the danger signs that I should be looking forward to? I mean, these are some of the few questions that would really help.
Pretty informative.
Yeah.
I mean, even as a woman, I don't think that we also talk very
it amazes me to see. I see this a lot of times, and not putting down any other branch, but I see, a woman knows that she has an oily skin with a sensitive T zone. She needs collagen. She needs, she's going to have a non-comedogenic makeup because that flares up her acne. This is the level of detail she knows about, which is great.
Yeah.
But we easily forget the hidden parts.
Internal.
Because उसको ऐसे ही गुप्त जगहों को गुप्त ही रहने दिया है हमने.
As if it doesn't matter.
But if you ask her whether your uterus is antiverted or retroverted, you know your skin type, but you don't know what your uterus is. If you ask whether your ovaries have enough follicle count, she would not know. If you ask her what is your actual ovulation date, have you ever tracked it, she would not know.
Right.
You asked me that the brain, body, mind, body connection.
Yeah.
There are a lot of women who take millions of skincare products and treatments, and then the end of the day, all they require is a gynecologist. Because it is the opposite also. If your ovaries are not functioning well, if your periods are not functioning well, if your uterus and ovaries are not in sync, you're going to have hair loss, you're going to have acne, you're going to have skin problems, you're going to have bone problems, you're going to have muscle problems. So you're going to have all these problems. Of course. If you have PCOS, you're going to get skin. You're going to have, like, if you are a PCO patient, the most common signs of PCOS are acne, weight gain, hair loss, unnecessary hair growth, blackening of your folds. If you have endometriosis, you're going to have severe pain. You're going to have weakness all around your body. If you have heavy periods, you're going to have decreased hemoglobin, decreased B12. You're going to have weaknesses, your bone health. If your estrogen levels are low, as in menopause, again, you'll have muscle wasting, weight loss, hair loss, loss in sexual activities, everything.
So you need to go to a gynae.
For a woman, yes.
And the last question. What is it that men think women are? And what do you, being in this amazing spot that you operate in, what do women really want?
I think one thing that men should stop thinking is, unfortunately, subconsciously, they still think that women's body is just meant to reproduce. It is a very common thing. In fact, I had one of my very close, a pharmaceutical expert who's been coming to me for ages, and I've known him for years, known the wife for years, who's had 2 children. The wife is somewhere around menopause. And when they came to me and the husband said that, she's having now some period issues. So I said, maybe she's now getting into menopause. And yeah, that's what I said. But he said that, she's having a lot of problems. And I just told her, let's just remove the uterus. And I said, why? So she's like, अभी क्या काम है? बच्चे तो हो गए, अभी उसका uterus का क्या काम है? Like, we can just remove it, right? And I was like, you think that was the only reason why she was given her uterus and her period?
It's an extra tool.
Correct. So I think a lot of men still think that the body of a woman or the reproductive system of women is only meant to reproduce. It's not. It has so much more to do with them as a person and as a human being. And that's
it's a part of the body of what that person is.
Correct.
It's not a spare part.
Correct.
You remove it and give it.
Yeah.
And what do you think women really want?
It's going to sound very cheesy.
Let it. Let it.
I think I see at least 100 women a day.
Wow.
At least.
Wow.
Patients, relatives, operative patients get admitted or whatever. Only in terms of the hospital. I'm not talking about my private life. Would be more. I always see that, a little bit of respect and a little bit of love is something that they are craving for. And that is throughout all the spectrum. Whether it is a billionaire's wife who's come to me for treatment, a celebrity's wife who's come to me for treatment, or I just had, we have a samosa wala just opposite the road whose wife I had treated for infertility and given them children. Across them, I still feel that they're not given enough respect, love, and independence. And I think if that is a little bit more, the women in our society would be much more happier.
couldn't have agreed more.
It was a very generic answer, but it's very true.
It's really good to hear from you.
Yeah.
Because you meet so many women.
Yeah.
And you meet them in their wildest times.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where we get real.
Yeah. You know, I've had a patient who was 42, 43 years old, and I've known her for a couple of years, and who always kept on saying that, you know, I kept on telling her, like, please freeze your eggs, like, you know, you're not married, but please. And she said, I'm never going to have, Yuvraj, I'm never going to have children.
Okay.
Like, I don't want. And I used to say that maybe I was also showing my patriarchal side. I said, but what if you get a partner and he wants it? She said, yeah, but I don't want it. So I said, okay. And she never froze her eggs. And then now at 43, suddenly she found someone great. We were all very happy. She got married, and 2 months later, she was in my clinic. She was like, I think we'll have to start my pregnancy treatment. I said, but you never wanted children. So she said that, but my husband wants it now. I said, but do you want it? And she's like, but he wants it. So, I mean, it's great that as a couple, she's respecting, but like for someone who is like, who runs a great empire in her business, today in 2 months, she had to change her belief.
Which she was so clear and strong about.
Yeah. No, I never went into the details of asking whether she's pushing herself to do it or not, because I think it was not my place to do, but yeah.
Yeah, but you the way you're reading it is the compassion.
Would that now think of it in reverse sense. If I had that same guy friend who was 36, 37, and he kept saying for years that he's never going to have kid, he's never going to have kid, he's never going to have kid, and at 43 he got married, would his perception change? Maybe, but mostly not.
His perception about?
As in, would he just agree to become a father now because the girl now wants to be a mother? Some would. I won't say everyone would, but I think majority wouldn't. The girl would easily change. Which is again a great quality in women. They're very accommodating, but I think the society is not accommodating enough for them.
for the woman's opinion.
Yeah.
Wow. You got it. Lovely. Thank you very much. I hope we can reach out to a couple more people and keep everybody safe.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
मैंने ये क्वेश्चन इनसे इसलिए पूछा था क्योंकि what women really want जनरली या तो हम विमेन उसको आंसर कर रहे होते हैं या मैन आंसर कर रहे होते हैं और वो दोनों अपनी अपनी जगह ठीक होते हैं. बट डॉक्टर यूवी एज अ गायनोकोलॉजिस्ट, एज अ मेल गायनोकोलॉजिस्ट, रोज लाइक ही सेड कि कम से कम 100 औरतों से मिलते हैं वो, और कम से कम उनके कुछ पार्टनर्स से मिलते होंगे. सो कितना होलसम है इनकी ये समझ, क्योंकि गायनोकोलॉजिस्ट के पास में हम अपने सबसे टफ मोमेंट्स में जाते हैं और सबसे खुशी के माहौल में वापस आते हैं. सो वी आर वनरेबल एट बेस्ट इन फ्रंट ऑफ अ गायनोकोलॉजिस्ट मोर देन आई थिंक एनी अदर मेडिकल स्ट्रीम. सो उस टाइम पे व्हाट डज अ वुमन वांट एंड what do men think that women want, का world ही अलग है. It's so beautiful that he said that all women want is respect and love. It's true, 100%. So leaving it on that note, I hope the podcast was very simple and yet very deeply relevant to you. You can listen to 2 other podcasts. Jaya Jaiswal, who is a sex educator, she talks about the kind of questions that she comes across. तो वो इसलिए सुनना चाहिए क्योंकि वो क्वेश्चन शायद आपके हो सकते हैं और उससे जुड़े हुए उनके आंसर्स आप सुन सकते हो. प्लस फैंटास्टिकली शी इज अ वेरी अमेजिंग पर्सन दैट यू मस्ट गेट टू नो. द सेकंड पॉडकास्ट इज विद सुजाता मलिक, हु इज अ स्पिरिचुअल हीलर, मेडिकल, gynecology, health, reproduction, mind-body connection. It's all super integral and connected. So listening to Sujata will help to deepen the understanding about energies, about our energy, about our vibrations and our frequencies, and how we can heal ourselves on our own. So I hope these podcasts have been greatly valuable to you. Thank you for sending all your love. Drop us a comment of any topic, any guests that you would like us to bring in, and we'll be happy to do that. Keep flirting with a fish.